I figured out. I don't know. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Alrighty here. Alrighty, I guess everyone's just popping in. Good afternoon, everyone. We're gonna give it about 1 minute, let everybody come in, and then I'll go ahead and do an introduction and kind of give everybody a rundown. So where right now is everybody coming in from? I see we have someone from Nova Scotia. Nice, beautiful area. Been in that Nova Scotia, Halifax, California, Cincinnati. I was just in Cincinnati. In fact, Virginia. Virginia is a good place. I'm in Hampton Roads, and that's 6 times a year. Ontario. Wow, a lot of places I know. I visit a lot. That's awesome. That's awesome. Couple more seconds here, and we're going to get started. Washington State, cool beans. Cool beans. All righty, here 405. We're going to get started. So, hello everyone. My name is Thomas Slack. I am with Shed Windows and More. We are located here in the beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina area. Touch on triple and double. Yes, we can. We can go ahead and talk about that glazing. So let's kind of just a quick rundown who I am, what we do. So Shed Windows and More is a company I operate and help manage. What we are is we are a manufacturer distributor for products ranging from everything from a shed, chicken coop, playhouse, all the way up to tiny homes. Then I have 2 other companies that specialize in different industries. My one company is going to specialize in single family and multifamily homes. And then my other one's going to specialize in hotel, motel, commercial, and that construction and building. So what I'm here today to talk about is the tiny things. So since I deal with multiple industries all across the construction industry, I get to hear about the good, the bad, and ugly when it comes to construction. The biggest concept, one of the biggest things, I was just at a trade show this entire week and literally landed an hour and 46 minutes ago. I landed back in Myrtle Beach and got to the office. Currently, my presentation's sitting in my luggage somewhere. So I have someone at the airport looking that up. So my presentation may be a little bit rough. I'm not going to have a beautiful PowerPoint, unfortunately. So part of what I'm going to do is show you some products. We're going to touch on different questions you have on products, what you should use, what you shouldn't use. I unfortunately, because traveling and being at other events, I did not get a chance to attend several of these other seminars, but I have heard amazing things. So you're going to hear some similar things that you heard from me, as you heard probably earlier on yesterday and today. But let's kind of get started. What I'll do is go ahead and touch on that first question before kind of jumping in to what I had planned. So triple glaze and double glaze. So glazing is all about your IG unit, your insulated glass, is about how many panes you have. So your double panes, which are what's standard throughout the US, all of the windows we sell are going to be DP rated. So all your dynamic pressure ranging in from 25 to 66, depending on kind of where you are in the country. Most of the stuff that we sell and I price out for the tiny house industry is always going to be a double glazed system. That double glazed system is going to be a single pane of glass. Then it's going to be filled with argon, potentially grids, and another pane of glass. Now, if you're in higher altitudes, we do have a capillary gasket that does help with that change of elevations. So that we also do high altitude systems as well. But your double glaze system is going to be 2 panes of glass. Triple glaze typically is a depending on where you are in the country, in the world, actually, because some parts of Australia and Europe, their triple glaze system is actually a laminate glass in between the two other panes. In some areas, it's just a third plexi system or a third pane of glass in the middle, but still filled with some kind of gas or and that without gas in between. I'm not sure if that answers your question. If you want to know the difference, if you want something more particular, drop it in chat for me. But as far as the tiny things, so one of the things I do is I consult with a lot of people, from the DIYers to the people that this is what they do. They pump out 100 buildings a month that are fully furnished, fully pre-built. You go hook it to your truck, or they go build it on site, and you and that are moving ready. So I get to hear a lot of questions. I get to answer a lot of questions. So my presentation pretty much is going to just be about kind of hitting on some points to think about. One of the things I like to do is educate people. Education is the most powerful thing we can do in this world and helping people out. So as far as your tiny house, the one thing I always ask is, if you're building a tiny house, what are you defining as a tiny house? Because of what I define and that your local municipality where you live defines may be different. So most of the times, that's always the first thing I like to ask is, what do you define it as? Do you define it as a structure built on a chassis that's a fifth wheel? Are you defining it as a structure built just on a standard pull behind chassis that's on that 2 5/16 hitch? Or is it something that's built on a foundation? So some municipalities, if it's on a concrete slab, don't call them tiny homes. If it's on a anchored concrete slab, it's called a micro home. Different areas like Georgia and South Carolina, there's actually a codex for micro homes. So I deal with code compliancy for several states. So I'm in that really educated and very uneducated in what a lot of the semantics of the construction industry has, because that's really what it is. It's semantics. It's how do you define and interpret what's written. So that's always my first question is, how are you defining it? What kind of foundation are we working on? Because, for instance, I deal with a chassis manufacturer. We design and distribute chassis with and without axles. And half the times when I talk about people putting a fifth wheel together or doing a hitch trailer, most of the times understanding the different gauges and the layout of the structure, how that completely changes the load base of the trailer. And that's something that I constantly have to make sure I go back and forth with people on a lot. So foundation is always important. And then the other thing I talk about is, where are you going to put this? So wherever you're looking to live and not park your tiny home, if it's going to go, like here in Myrtle Beach, we have communities that are RV parks that are actually pulling RVs out and building permanent apartments or tiny homes. In some cases, they're classified as micro homes for people to rent and move in, and also bring their own units to the beach here. So with that, that's zoned in a particular way that allows that. But with your local municipality, zoning is always a question and issue that I always like to bring up, because depending on how you're zoned, if you're zoned CFA, if it's zoned for a residential dwelling of a certain size, and based on the lot acreage, all of that comes into play. So I always tell people, make sure you look at your zoning, see what your local county or township or city, depending on where you live, figure out how their zoning requirements will change what is there, because that also affects your tax bracket and the way taxes are done. And based on the way that's zoned is, can you put a septic system on it? Or do you have to tie into the actual utilities? All things to kind of think about going from there. When it comes to building your tiny home, we started talking about foundations, so let's talk about foundations. So a lot of people, and I've seen this all over the country, take a 4-inch slab, drop a 4-inch slab with a 12-inch footer, call it a day. They don't think about how you're going to set the plumbing, how you're going to set your electric. So no one ever ties in plumbing and electric into their slab. So everybody normally ties in above ground, and uses electrical pumps and drainage, or they have to go in after the fact and break up concrete and cut concrete to bury stuff. So floor plan and planning in general really matters. So that's one thing. I don't know if you're now, again, who here is a DIY person versus who here is a contractor that does this for a living. One thing to really think about is make sure that you guys are thinking about how your floor plan, your foundation really is going to affect what you're doing. All righty. Oh, and it looks like Zoom just threw an error. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, cool. Perfect. For some reason, Zoom just started spinning for me on a second. I'm running two separate machines just to kind of get things going. When it comes now to your floor plans and layouts, one of the things, again, people don't think about is how are you naturally going to flow through your building? And when I walk in the door, which way is my door swinging? Well, is my door swinging into a high traffic path area? If it is, well, what's on the other side of that door? Is it something that someone can see coming? Is it something that's going to affect your fire code? Is your door an in-swing? Are you using a sliding glass door? Are you doing an outswing door? Certain simple things like that, as far as just door orientation, door type, affects your entire floor layout. Now, again, with some of the tiny homes guys that are building it to the RV standard and RV codes, your fire egress code systems are going to be different than if you're building to a residential IRC based kind of code. So again, until we actually have an IRC tiny home code, that may change the entirety of what fire egress is going to be. But as far as which standard are you living to and building to, will require then your traffic flow, your traffic patterns within inside the home. How are you going from when you're inside? What pathway are you going to go to bed? What pathway are you going to the kitchen? Creating a concept that you're not going to have a jam up if you have 3 or 4 people in there and you need to get out. So that's always something, again, simple things to think about. A lot of things people don't think about. Also, when it comes to then layouts of your tiny home, what's the occupancy rate you're looking to put in there? What's your square footage? What is the occupancy rate that you are allowed to put in the type of dwelling you're building? Different things that are so minute and out in left field, people don't think about. There is a builder that builds tiny homes, and where he's located in the country, they have an occupancy requirement that over a certain square footage, you can't actually have more than a certain occupancy. So because of that, what he does is maxes out all of his buildings to occupancy by using multi-changed furniture, which is something we do for the hotel motel industry. We actually have a standard armchair that folds out into a twin XL. We have a couch that goes to a full queen and short king. That's an all foam construction. So those that are used to pull out couches, that are used to those bruiser bars, and when I mean bruiser bars, you know what I'm talking about, the ones that squeak really loud and hurt your back. With our design, I completely did rid of that because, well, throughout high school and college, most of us who are at least in their mid to late 30s and beyond have lived through that couch at some point in their life. And no, it's not a lot of fun. So again, dealing with your furniture layout, how is that going to affect your flow? How is that going to affect your occupancy? Insulation. One of the things I always get asked about is what kind of insulation are we doing? What should we use? What shouldn't we use? As far as insulation goes, there's factors that are going to affect that. To what now? One, how are you venting? You're going to vent your walls and your roof. Are you doing a siding that has a radiant barrier? A lot of people love to use LP siding and with a foil radiant barrier on the back, and then try to put a roll of R19 in. And I tell people all the time, you can't do that. You want to talk about sweating? You want to talk about mold growth? That's a quick, easy way to do it. But again, so things to think about is how are you going to insulate your building? What do you want to use? How do you plan to do it? There are good things and bad things to think about while you're doing it. Again, I don't know everyone's level of comfort and what they're doing or what they want to know. So I'm just kind of going to touch on tons of subjects. If you want to say something, if you want to ask something, just go ahead. As far as when you're then, so you have your insulation with your different insulation. Now, are you just going to insulate your walls and then and that insulate just the base of your roof? Are you going to insulate if you're going to raise your in that home and it's going to be on a platform, or in that so you're on blocks like a modular home or a mobile home? How are you going to insulate underneath? Do you plan on insulating underneath? Where do you live? Does it require it? How are you going to vent out your crawl space area? All simple things that are normally overlooked and are normally people have to go back and redo. As far as then, so you have your insulation inside your walls, you have your power systems. So one of the things we do as far as when it comes to power, are you going to do a full and that so some people overseas and that in Europe have a different power system than ours. So I'm just going to call it low voltage and high voltage. So if it's in that if it's a 110 system or a 12 volt system, I'm just going to run off a 110 and a 12 volt for my examples. But there are other standards out there we can talk about, but we'll just keep it to these two for now. But now when you're planning to run your electrical, what's the voltage system are you going to run? Are you living off the grid? Are you going to run off a low voltage system with a solar? Are you going to run a low voltage system in the lighting? Well, depending on what your power system you want to run, it's going to affect everything you do from the inside of your home. For instance, we carry we carry two different voltage systems of appliances. So right here, these two fridges, and that to my left, I believe your guy's right. And I don't know if I have a beard or not, but this is going to all be a 12 volt fridge. I have a nice side-by-side fridge that is full size and that is almost full size. These are going to be your 15.6 cubic fridges, but they all run off a 12 volt. I also have a 14 cubic that's a 110. So it really depends on what your main system is. Now, if you like 12 volt system, how can you still use 12 volt appliances in a regular voltage system? Well, we have inverters and converters that will actually hook it all up. You plug it in, it converts all the power AC to DC, makes that life real easy, things you don't have to worry about. As far as your electrical goes, one of the things that I've seen a lot of people run into is when planning electrical, and if you're going to mix your AC and DC, your high voltage, low voltage systems, is we're creating a centralized place that's easy to access. It's that's easy to get into, to pull things out of, to put things in and that's storing and that inverters and everything that you need, your power banks, your batteries for your solar systems, creating a simple storage solution where you can access it. There's a lot of guys that do these really tiny wall panels that are like 24 inches by 18 inches. That's a pop-out panel. You know what? It's effective. It works. But let me tell you, getting in there and trying to pull wires and replace inverters and these different things become really difficult when you're working in tight places. So that's always something I always try to warn people is make sure that you are when you're planning your tiny house, that you have a centralized location where all your electrical, your fuse box, everything is easy to access. It is one thing that is normally overlooked. Where do I put my fuse box? How do I run my electrical? Again, all your electric depends on what kind of foundation you're running and also your voltage systems. Most people again are used in that nowadays. I would normally talk about the difference between halogen light systems and LEDs and lighting, but pretty much halogen light systems and everything else have gone completely out the door. Where you're now in an LED lighting world. So normally I can now luckily skip that whole portion where that was a whole lot of fun to try to explain. So one of the things we talked about traffic patterns, we talked about how people move, we touched on furniture. Let's kind of go back to furniture. The one thing a lot of people on actually, it's really neat. There was in one of the Q&A stuff that they did for the presenters, someone dropped a link for a tiny house that they built that's actually a fold out container. I've seen similar systems to it where they have a hydraulic system. Is it cutting out on anyone else? Am I not speaking loud enough? All good. Okay. Something that because I only have an hour, I'm speaking a little fast. So if I do cut out, it may be because I'm speaking fast and not projecting enough. But all right, cool. Just making sure. So all good, all good, all good. What are we talking about? Oh, so there was a video that's done that one of the presenters shared that they built a cool tiny house that is a container that then folds out. Those systems are really neat. There's a couple people that have done it over the years. We see them at IBS. We've seen a couple different systems at IBS every year. I've seen a couple different systems pop up and down throughout the last 5 to 6 years. So the nice thing about those systems and having a system that you can actually shift and easily fold up and move is they're easy to transport. They don't take as much foot space during transport, and you can unfold everything out. Well, what really comes into play there is space. And that video, they actually showed a lot of the stuff that I normally talk about, which I actually, in my presentation, had a link to that YouTube video and screen captures from it to kind of show things that I talk about because it's neat. It's another presenter, so it would have been a way to promote that presenter again. But things like your Murphy beds, your folding chairs, your folding tables, simple things like that when you're moving stuff around. How do you take your furniture? How do you manipulate and move it? So if you have a trailer system, if it's a travel trailer, a gypsy wagon, a tiny home on a chassis system, how do you secure your furniture? How do you build your living space around the concept of moving? And that's something a lot of people don't think about. So that's why things like Murphy beds are platform beds with storage underneath, platform beds with lifting spring systems so you can use the underneath for storage. Different things like that, convertible chairs, convertible beds. And those are some things, again, to think about when you're transporting and moving. And now, do you need to tie down stuff? And now, do you need things with interlocking systems? Some of our fridge systems, like we have a 10 cubic fridge and a 14 cubic fridge, because the way they open, we actually have spring locks on them. So you actually have to push a button to open your door. Unlike these, you just flick it open, but it's the closing mech that keeps these closed, where the other ones, and that they don't have a little magnet system. So it's and that we have to use a little clip system. But again, things to think about. I'm moving, it's traveling, it's hitting bumps. How do I prevent things from moving? Let's see, how am I doing? Okay, I'm doing great on time. Now let's talk about materials. That's how your RV fridge is? Yeah, RV fridges are great. When it comes to, we do a lot of RV for the tiny house industry. We do a lot of, sorry, my phone will just constantly go off all day long. We do a lot of RV appliances for tiny homes because we deal with a lot of, not cold, there you go. We deal with so many different RV companies and renovation guys, bus converters, that convert buses into tiny homes. We have a lot of people that build sheds and portable buildings, turn them into tiny homes, as well as people starting from a micro home cement foundation or a trailer foundation. It's really easy to run 12-volt systems. So RVs mainly run off 12 volts, which is why we have a lot of 12-volt appliances, and all of our gas appliances are all propane. Propane's easy to get everywhere. It's easier for people that live off the grid, and it's easy for people traveling on the road. So off the screen here, we actually have a range oven combo and a range standard, just plain recessed gas range as well. Also, speaking of appliances, we are now with Lippert Components and Furrion, Girard, and Evercho. We actually just got the exclusivity for distribution for the tiny house industry because we've done so much for them and helped build their name into a lot of the industry all over the country. They pretty much are now going to push us as one of their, and that as we are one of their largest distributors that aren't an RV OEM, which is a cool new thing that popped up 2 weeks ago. But so going back to, and let's go back to now insulation. How are you going to so we talked about wall insulation. We can go into roofing, and we can go into subfloors, and we can go into crawl space, but that gets really crazy. So let's just keep it simple, and let's talk about windows. Let's talk about doors. So a lot of people want to use an RV door for their tiny home. So RV doors work. RV doors are polystyrene. They're normally an aluminum clad system. They work, they're effective, but they are not the most energy efficient things in the market. So what we've done is we have a full door shop. So when I say a full door shop, we do everything for single family and multifamily. So any crazy door concept you can dream of, to French doors, to doors with side lights, ironclad door systems with decorative glass and all that stuff. All that stuff in between. We do all the kind of doors you can dream of. So, but our main bread and butter is a 4 9/16 jamb. Now, for some tiny home guys that are running off tube stock steel or aluminum or architectural aluminum to build their homes out of, or someone that's doing a 2x4 construction, you're fine with a 4 9/16. But all the tube guys aren't good with a 4 9/16, and that they need something shorter. So what we've actually done is we've worked with some of the different jamb providers, and we have a high density composite that we actually now can rip, and that to create a shorter depth to build jambs around, and that's to have jambs that fit within inside of tube stock that's actually still going to hold a good structure going down the road for a 4 9/16, or taking a 4 9/16 jamb, making it thinner for an 1 3/4 door. So you still have that full polyurethane fiberglass skin, which is going to work really well, look really nice. But now we also have a system where you can tie it into your tube stock buildings and your tube stud buildings and get away with it. That makes and has opened up a lot of different avenues for people that have always been stuck in that mobile home or the RV style doors. Now, we also do have a lot of people that use the mobile home style doors, the ones with the metal flange around. That's a steel door. That's typically 34 inches by 76 inches. We sell a ton of those too. They're all PSF rated products. They're great. They get the job done. They're all outswing. They're just never the prettiest thing in the world. So with the doors and that, what type of door system are you doing? How are you going to seal it? And that's always, again, one of my big questions. Where does this house plan on being? Do you plan on moving it? All these different factors are all things you have to think about to decide which product you're putting into your building. I'm one of those people that there's people that come to me and say, oh, I want this, I want that. They answer my questions. I tell them, I'm sorry, I'm not going to provide this and that because it's not the best fit for what you want. Here's my opinion and what I'm going to suggest. And they either like me or hate me for my suggestions, but I'm one of those people that also love to sleep at night, and I have to sleep with myself. So doors is one way, depending on what kind of door system you want. Because doors, now let's be honest, the wrong door will leak a lot of your climate control and your HVAC. So making sure what you're building, having the right door is going to be important. Now, windows. We do windows in double pane all day long. We also have RV windows as well for those who are doing trailers and pull behinds. Warranties. As far as warranty on what? On windows, on doors, on windows. So you do not need to be a licensed builder to install windows or doors. I have 1,000 DIY people that install my windows and doors. That requirements are very simple. You need to flash it. You need to, and that I can provide a full installation. We have full installation videos. Don't know if they're all publicly released yet. Our market, and we just completely wiped all 140 something videos we had, and we are going through completely redoing them because a lot of them are outdated to the codes. But as far as warranties, depending on the products, all of our double pane windows are limited lifetime warranties. All of our fiberglass doors is a 3 or 5 year warranty, depending on the brand of the door and depending on which type of door it is. But for instance, most of our windows, which is kind of the one thing people tend to become more concerned with, and that warranty is going to be a limited lifetime. All of our windows and our double pane line, we do either with tempered or without tempered. I read the question and I forgot where I was going, but let's go start back at windows. So as far as windows, in that choosing the right window for where you live matters. We have a lot of people in different markets that just want a double pane. They don't care what it is. They just, their code, and that the code requirements for their area doesn't have a really low U rating or any of those other factors. It has to be a vinyl double pane window. Well, realistically, the difference between and that the glass itself, the glazing, and how the glazing is done, and one thing I always have to educate people. If I do let me back up real quick. All of our glazing is done on a scale of from 2 to 9. We have and I call, instead of glazing 2, I call it just a G. So a G2 to a G9 is going to be our full glazing, and all our different glazing packages. My G2 is the most basic thing. It's a clear glass inside, basic low E on the outside. And then our G7, which is my bread and butter, which is what I do for 90% of all of my windows, is going to be a low E24 triple layered low E with argon, with a stainless steel spacer, and then a clear glass on the backside. That's going to be that prime bread and butter. And the reason that is because it passes the IRC rating for the entire country. Now, when you get into places in Colorado that you're like 8,000 feet, 9,000 feet above sea level, argon doesn't typically like to be used unless you're manufacturing at those heights, because the pressure differential between where our different plants are located around the country to get product to you. So for instance, I have a plant in Texas that a lot of my high volume guys, I'll ship direct from the plant to. And so when we're talking about 20 feet above sea level, and you go from 20 feet above sea level to 8,000 feet above sea level, your window is going to crack. It's not going to be friendly. You're not going to like it. So that's why we have plants in different areas to help with that pressure differential as far as and that for the argon filled. But so the glazing codes, again, I'm a person that goes off on tangents. I typically feed way better on conversation than talking to myself into a screen. So the constant yo-yo effect, I apologize. But when you come into windows and you want to talk about windows and insulation, the price from that G2, that really basic and that low E coating, to the really nice G7, which is what is my IRC for the nation, the price difference between those is very minimal. In most cases, you're only talking $20, $25 a window. It's not a crazy price. It's not something that's going to break the bank, but a lot of people don't look at it that way. They want the cheapest thing possible. Now we do also look into where you're located, what county are you in, and we can actually build and put that number down to the glazing package that meets your exact county. Now we do that for some people, but for the most part, when people say, hey, I just need a quote on this window size, 90% of the time you're getting an IRC rated window that's going to meet the entire country's IRC basic code. So that's actually a good question. That's something I deal with quite a bit. So as far as building a tiny home on wheels to travel around the country with different climates everywhere, I would recommend a G7 or a G9. And my G9 basically puts a hard coat on the inside. So when you're up in parts of the country that are really hot, really blazing, having that extra low E UV barrier to reflect helps. That G7 is still something I would, that G7 is still something I would 90% of the time be fine with using. It's again, I have a tiny house that I built for a friend, and literally he lives on the road. He goes from Maine to Southern California and everywhere in between, in his tiny house that we built for him about 6 years ago. And he has the same windows that are sitting here in these wood shelves to my right, all in G7. He's been up to Boulder and Denver without any issues. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case for every single window and every single time. Again, things in building supplies and building products and manufacturing products, things happen. So when things happen, really, that's when you got to look at, okay, how does the company and how does the person take care of you? We actually have different things that actually are designed to help and protect our customers when I ship stuff all over the country, because we ship literally to Australia, New Zealand, all 50 US states, Puerto Rico, South America, South Africa, New Zealand, or I already said New Zealand, but Ireland, Germany, and Portugal, sorry, literally almost every other week, or at least once a month, depending on some of those areas. Windows best for changing altitudes and considering the factor in. So altitude changes, it really, and again, this is a hard question, because when you're talking altitude changes, are we talking going from 20 feet above sea level to 8,000 feet? Well, let's be honest, how many places are 8,000 feet above sea level? There's not a lot of places that are above 8,000 feet above sea level. We have a couple people that build cabins that they rent, that are built for rentals all throughout the mountains of Colorado and all throughout the Rockies, and all those places. We have to do a gasket system. That's a whole capillary system. So as that window travels, that capillary allows that pressure inside the window to neutralize with the pressure outside. So if you're going to do heavy travel and heavy movement, then we have the best package we have for that is going to be our G3, which is our 3-layered low E with a full capillary system. So you can have that. I'm in New Mexico, 4,000, and Albuquerque's 7K in Santa Fe. Oh, okay. I didn't know tows go up to in that 10K. All right. Did not realize that. I know quite a bit, but man, let me tell you, I don't know. I will be the first to tell you, I don't know everything. So, you're 9,600 feet above sea level. You're sitting about right now where I have 140 cabins that we just sent doors and windows, fold out beds, fold out couches, and mattresses to. Mattresses, yes. In fact, I do manufacture full memory foam and gel foam mattresses in pretty much any custom size for anybody that is building tiny homes. Any kind of shape you need, rounded, corner cut, standard. So any builders out there, I get asked all the time, how do I fit a mattress in these tight areas? Because we deal with the RV industry. Yes, so we sell fridges. So again, backing up to the fridges, we have 12 volt fridges, and we have with 110 standard plug fridges. These two back here are going to be your 12 volt, your standard 12 volts. My 4-door is going to be in that your standard high voltage. Then I have a 10 cubic that is low voltage as well. So we sell fridges, we sell ranges. I have off screen here, I have a 2.4 gallons per minute propane water heater. We do ship to Canada. I ship to Canada every day. All my prices are USD. Customers responsible for duties and taxes. So we ship literally all over the world. We're actually working with some new initiatives in that to help rebuild different places in the Caribbean, and we also are working with some of the different 2 different building supply companies in Puerto Rico to try to help rehabilitate parts of Puerto Rico. So when I say we ship globally, I will pretty much ship everywhere. We have the logistics. The reason we have the logistics is because we started as a company out of a 1.5 car garage in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, basically selling on eBay. All because 20 plus years ago, I broke a window in a shed and we couldn't find a replacement. So we actually started with no minimums. And so we built a whole logistical program to do massive wholesale system and then onesie twosies. And so all of our packaging and all the ways we do distribution, I can do any type of distribution anywhere in the country because of what we built. It's just unfortunately with gas and oil prices and petroleum and how that has affected the entire trucking industry and logistics and transportations. Fortunately, some of the prices have gone up for those services. But again, we always try to be transparent and say, here's our cost to do this. Do you want to pay that cost? And go from there, because all of our pricing most of our pricing is without shipping. And then we charge you whatever we're charged for shipping. So going back to windows, because we were talking as far as windows, again, we do 4 main colors. I have white, a black. Our black is going to be a white vinyl with black cladding to it. So that cladding is going to have a warranty against fade and scratching. Then we also have a full clay. And we just launched a new version of our clay, which is slightly lighter, which we call almond. So those are going to be our main 4 finishes. We also do custom shapes and sizes and pretty much anything you want. We stock a lot of base sizes. And then as far as custom sizes, something unique, normally is about a 4 or 5 week lead time. So we can pretty much get anything you need done if you have the time and willing to wait some time. The only thing I can't do is full rounds. I have not perfected that, and perfect it and then get it actually passed through your AMA testings. That's a whole different monster. We may eventually get into full rounds for double panes, but not yet. Alrighty. See, I'm trying to keep track of time. So I've got about 10 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions on anything? Because I could keep going on a bunch of different stuff, but let's answer any questions you guys have. While you guys are writing some questions out, if you guys need anything or have any questions that after this and you want to know about products or get specs on anything, that's going to be my email address. All you got to do is shoot me an email. Again, I run several different companies and that crossing pretty much every form of the construction industry. And we can pretty much answer most questions that you have. If I do not have the answer, I deal with the engineers and that will give me the answers. So it may take some time, but most of the times I can pretty much answer most things. Which is quiet as well. My email should be on up. I didn't thank you. And then thank you, Tiny House. I accidentally sent that to the host and panelists. Oops. As far as what's quieter. So for the most part, I find the 12-volt systems run about as quiet as the 110s. I haven't actually put a decimal reader to it. So to be honest, it's based on my hearing, and I'm deaf as deaf can be. Literally I have, and normally when I talk to people, I slightly turn so I can actually hear, and I have to stare at their lips. So as far as decibel, I'm going to normally, from the most part, the 12-volt systems have always been quieter to me, at least, but they're roughly, it's just the way it's wired. I would assume that they're about the same. So I do sell mini splits. The mini splits I sell are done through Dow Manufacturing. They are not charged. So it's not going to be like a Mr. Cool system where I can put it down, put it in, plug in the pre-charge lines and go. The reason that is because most of those systems are just vastly more expensive because there's a lot of liability in it. So all of our systems are not charged. So you're going to need an HVAC specialist that can vacuum it down to 300 microns and that to then fill it with Freon. So we do have mini split systems. All of our mini splits are going to be standard 9,000 BTUs. We also have a 12,000 BTU system. I also have then a 13.5K rooftop RV AC unit that we are doing, that we've done for a lot of tiny homes, bus conversions as well. That system is a nice negative pressure system that it intakes the intake and out and the outtake of the air is done within the same confined area, which is kind of neat. So we also do sell those, and we do a lot of those. Those come in white and black. Now, a lot of people ask, well, can I put that still on a tiny house that's a park model? Absolutely. What you would have to do is, let's just say that you have a standard gable and that okay, I'm just gotta watch time. Standard gable roof. What you'd have to build is you'd have to build a dormer off it. You can put faux windows on it, or you can put windows and paint them and paint the back sides of them, or get them with privacy glass so it's frosted. But then you put the unit on top of that dormer and that level. So then what you do is you build it 3 to 6 inches down. You build a compression box 3 to 6 inches down, and then it just will circulate the air from there. Now, if you don't like that placement, our metal shop, I have a full metal fabrication shop that we do a lot of flat stock and a lot of custom privacy screens and cool cutout designs. But so what we're doing in our metal shop now is actually creating a 14-inch by, I think it's 3-inch metal duct that basically fits into that area of compression, and then you just hook a standard outtake to it like you see in every residential house, normally in all the new construction in the roof. So basically the pressure builds up there, goes up the ducting and right out into your loft area, into your rooms. So with our metal shop, we do a lot of handrails, as I said, privacy screens, all sorts of really cool, neat things. Maybe potentially I could move this over to show, maybe not. I don't know, without creating a huge vibration. Does anybody have any other questions? Because I'm not sure if we've got another presenter, so I don't want to take up another presenter's time. But yeah, we do mini splits. We also do fireplaces. We have a 30-inch and a 42-inch electrical fireplace as well. We have also doors, brackets, pediments, corbels, custom windows, a lot of metal stuff, a lot of PVC stuff. It's going to be an electrical. not propane. I've stayed away from propane fireplaces because especially in tiny houses, I have seen way too many fires. So our website is currently outdated, but for instance, here's gonna be our 30-inch electrical. That's gonna be a 30-inch electrical with crystal, with a crystal base for it. I do have a catalog that you can download, online, that will show you some of it. Let me pull it up real quick for you guys and I'll drop the link. But we are currently right now in the process of redesigning our entire website to be able to have some of that stuff more readily available. And let's make sure I put this to everyone this time and not just to the host. So that's going to kind of give you some of that, all the base information on most of our appliances. I have a ton more appliances coming, and a lot of different electrical power systems coming. One of the things you'll also notice on there is we do a retractable cassette awning that's all solar power. We do it in 8-foot to 20-foot, so every 2-foot increment. So we do have a cassette awning that's going to be black vinyl awning system and a black cassette for it. So it's really only about 5 inches by 6 inches, and then whatever length you want, that goes all the way out anywhere from 6.5 feet down to 8 feet, depending on the width you do. But did not get a chance to cover a lot of stuff. Yeah, but if you guys have any questions, feel free. My goal is these things I try not to make a big sales pitch out of, because let's be honest, everybody tries to sales pitch a lot of things. It's just not my style. I like to educate, like to give you things to think about. Hope you guys learned something. Hope if you guys again have any questions, just let me know. Again, there's some things I can answer, there's some things I may not be able to, but I will always do my best. And so yeah, you guys, again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed the entire conference. If there's anything you need to know, let me know. And I'd like to thank Zach and his entire crew for putting this all together, and the tinyhouse.com. And hopefully I get to watch all the presenter stuff over the weekend. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Again, my name is Thomas Slack with Shed Windows and More. Have an awesome time.